Just about everybody else is 3 weeks away. Husker fans feel blessed. Less than 3 weeks away, more like 2 weeks away from Nebraska football over across the pond, over in Ireland. If anybody has their Irish accent, I would break it out right now, but you would be sorely disappointed, so I won't even try. The opener in the Big Ten opener over in Dublin against Northwestern. And of course, this is our 82nd edition of Nebraska Cornhuskers Live right here at the Voice of College Football. And this one is brought to you by Gene Arthur Associates. And we will tell you a whole lot more about them in a few minutes. Greg, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Mark. Great to be here as always. How about you?
Love to be here every Tuesday night, 6 Central, 7 Eastern. Absolutely. And of course, you can catch Greg's work at On3 Nebraska Video right here on YouTube. So get on over there.
And hey, 70 more subscribers. Let's get them tonight.
Oh, yes. Let's get them tonight.
70 right now was the last time I looked. So,
folks, we've got like 25 to 30 people online right this second. We're going to be up near 200 by the end of the show. And there's going to be all sorts of 3,000 to 4,000 people watch this. There should be no reason that we can't get online on 3 Nebraska Video past 1,000 subs. So please do that. Help us build the brand. We would like to do this show week after week after week after week after week. And one of the ways we do that is not only supporting this show, but the other ventures that Greg and I have. So that means on 3 Nebraska Video. So please get on over there. And besides that, we're not just begging for subs. It's great content. That's why you get over there.
It helps everybody help everybody.
That's it. That's it.
It's a team. We're a brotherhood here. Come on.
That's it. Alan's here and everybody else. Good to see all of you.
Alan, there you go, brother. He's giving a thumbs up.
Stephen, good to see you as well. All right. The team's in camp, and now it's starting to get serious. Greg, it's starting to get down to the point where, okay, we got 2+ weeks. We need to start zeroing in on some serious football here. So the Huskers, what is the talk around fall camp right now?
Well, run down day 10 yesterday of fall camp concluded, and we had post practice availability with the defensive side of things, and they scrimmaged on Saturday. That was their first scrimmage of fall camp. So like I just said, we heard from the defensive side. So we heard from Eric Shenander and Travis Fisher and some of the players, and so we got the defensive side of the results from the scrimmage. And I think some of the biggest takeaways, first and foremost in my mind, was Nick Henrich was, he took a spot at the podium and started doing his interview and asked. He was asked that about his thoughts about the scrimmage. Jeez, excuse me, and he didn't even start talking about defense. He started talking about the running backs, and the running backs hitting the holes hard and really, running downhill. And it was kind of telling because it's been a progression. I mean, we kind of heard things about like that in spring camp, but now in fall camp and it's back in spring, it sounded like the offensive line was doing pretty well, and now when you think of one of the leaders on the team, inside linebacker, Nick Henrich, this homegrown boy, actually praising the running backs instead of even talking about the defense first, means a lot to me. But there's a lot been going on. We'll hear tomorrow. We get a video photo day again in the morning tomorrow. So, if you're not subscribed on 3 Nebraska Video, then you're going to miss out because we'll have 2 cameras worth of offensive, defensive highlights. So It'll be pretty sweet to see. You'll see what we see tomorrow from what we see in the media. But all in all, it sounds to me like the running back room on the offensive side of the ball is looking really good, and probably a little bit better than the wide receiver room right now, as far as leadership and things like that. But the offensive line to me is still a puzzle. But I think that the best thing about the offensive line is that everybody is actually working out at every position. Just like if you were an NFL offensive lineman in training camp, because you're expected to be able to play every single position on that offensive line, because availability is the key to to being a good player. So that's all looking up, and then you switch over to the defensive side of the ball, and yesterday we heard from O'Shawn Mathis, we heard from Stephen Wynn. I already said we talked to Nick Henrich. Tommy Hill, another guy that we had a chance to speak to. And, all these guys really, transfer guys coming in, they are expected to come in and put in a big effort and be leaders on this team. And O'Shawn Mathis is a guy that is just a very, very impressive guy to see in person and to actually listen to him. He is very well spoken and very wise and one heck of a player, and he's huge. He's a huge human being. This is the first time I had a chance to see him in person myself, and I was shocked about how big he is and tall. But he's when Eric Schneider was asked about his potential and where, because we'll say kind of the theme of right now on the offensive line is that there's a lot of rotation going on, and there's rotations going on at every single room on the defense, and you hear that a lot year in and year out, but I really believe it's true this year. And there's been some diamonds in the rough that have come up on the defensive line. So my point was that Eric Schneider was asked about O'Shawn Mathis and about him moving around and stuff. He said, no, I like him. I love him at the rush end position because he's got a special type of talent. And then, everybody knows that Ty Robinson's kind of cemented in there. And you bring in the Stephen Wynn from Alabama to help in that interior. And, you're developing a Nash Hutmacher in there that has been gathering so much praise. But the biggest thing there on that defensive line is former walk-on, homegrown boy from Nebraska is Colton Feast, who has really developed himself into a guy that's going to get a lot of reps and maybe be a starter on the defensive line. So that makes so much things. You get all those bodies in there that you can rotate around, and it right now it's looking really, really good on there. And the linebacker spot as well. I think Barrett Rood wants to get a lot of guys rotating in there, and in the secondary as well. And they even added, I mean, it's kind of funny, they just added another piece to their secondary today as a walk-on, a former UCF player that Travis Fisher and Scott Frost recruited at UCF, and then had injury problems and went to Florida State, and now has come here as a walk-on, given the one last hurrah. So you've got a lot of depth going on that defense, and it's looking really good. And, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm starting to ramble here, so let's take some questions, I guess.
You're good. You're good. So Greg alludes to Brandon Moore, who's been brought up a number of times in the chat. Brandon
Yeah,
Moore, yeah, played on that famous,
2016 recruit at UCF.
yeah, played on that famous 2017 13-0 team and played quite a bit. 12 games, 31 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, and a pick that season, and played substantially the next year in 2018. Then barely hit the field in 19 and 20. Was at Florida State last year, so he
Had a,
hasn't played
he had a
hardly any
devastating,
football since
yeah,
2018.
he had a devastating knee injury that kept him off the field for 2 years. So that's why he's kind of he's an old man now as far as college football days go or lifespans go. But yeah, he had that knee injury that wiped out 2 of his seasons. I mean, it was early on in, I believe, 2019, and it wiped out his complete season and his 2020 season, and then moved on to Florida State. And I don't think ever really recovered fully from that injury. And now, he comes into Nebraska as a guy obviously that Travis Fisher had pinpointed a long time ago and recruited heavily, and is familiar with Eric Shenander, obviously, and Mike Dawson, and you just go down Barrett Rood, go down the line. He knows all the coaches here, and it's not like, I don't think it's a guy that you're bringing in here to really have huge impact on starting role or even number 2 role, but you're bringing a guy in here that's a veteran that's been through it, and in the leadership role, I think he brings a huge aspect to the team, and just like Trey, what was his name that came over, the wide receiver, the same thing when Frost first year, same guy, 5th year senior, just came in and brought all kinds of leadership in. So yeah, it's kind of cool to see something like that, and you never know. He might even be able to participate and play some valuable snaps. We'll see.
Well, folks, we're Americans. We love football. We're crazy about it. But you know what? We love our country even more. And these past 2 or 3 years have taken a toll on all of us. Economic difficulties, especially here in the last year. So remember those families in need. We got to support each other. And the fine folks at Gene Arthur Associates, they're doing their part. So now when you partner with Gene Arthur Associates, you give back to those families in need, and most importantly, those children who need it most. So Gene Arthur Associates has 23 families currently that are waiting for your support. So you can help yourself and help those 23 families and more when you go to www.jaainsurance.com. The link's down in the description section of the video, and I'm also going to put it in the live chat here. So you get your instant quote on home, auto, motorcycle, boat. There's not going to be anything here that you're not going to be needing insurance for. RV, renter's insurance, business owner policies, commercial package policies, workers' comp, life, health, dental, crime. It's all covered. Contact Gene Arthur Associates there, www.jaainsurance.com. They do it all. So you're covered.
It was Trey Neal, by the way, and I want to thank Andrew for correcting me on that. The wide receiver that I was talking about that transferred to Nebraska from UCF.
Very good. A number of people had asked here in the chat that if Casey Thompson goes down, God forbid, how well Chubba Purdy or whomever wins that number 2 job is going to be prepared to
You know what? I think right now they're all prepared to start a football game, and I'm going 4 deep on this one. I mean, Casey Thompson, Chubba Purdy, Logan Smothers, Heinrich Harburg. From what I saw last week when I saw them all throw it in person, I was extremely impressed. And, I've already seen the latter 2 that I mentioned. I've seen many years already throwing the football. But both Casey Thompson and Chuba Purdy are very, very impressive to me. So you know what? Like you said, God forbid Casey Thompson goes down, but I think they're still in good hands with the room that they have right now. And I have to credit Mark Whipple for really kind of instilling kind of a new philosophy and new techniques and everything that have been proven over time, and they've all bought into it. And each one of the four that I mentioned, they all each have their own unique skill set. That heck, if one goes down, you bring another one in. It's gonna throw off the other team's defense, and then following games, people are gonna have to start watching film a little bit closer. But no, I'm very, very excited about that quarterback room, and I think there's a lot of depth and a lot of talent there.
For any of us that have watched football for a long, long time, we remember back to big games and just watching our favorite teams, and we identify those games with being on a certain network. And you can think about the NFL being on for years and years and years. It was the AFC was on NBC and the NFC was on CBS. And then Fox came into play and NBC got knocked to the back and then got back into the game later with Sunday Night Football. And on. We could say the same thing about college football. So there have been various contracts transitioning from different conferences and so forth and so on. But Greg, I think what's going on right now with the Big Ten and ESPN, or what's not going on, is more substantial than pretty much anything we've seen in the past because of this.
I'm actually shocked that it took us 22 minutes to touch on this right now.
ESPN got into the business of college football, they pretty much started up a contract with every major conference, and then eventually every conference, the American Conference, the Sun Belt, the MAC, everybody's got a contract with ESPN. And now with this kind of, I don't want to over dramatize it, but this war of powers in college football, the SEC, the Big Ten, it's become a network war too now, where again, even though Fox and the Big Ten were attached rather closely here for the last 5 or 6 years, ABC and ESPN still were pumping a ton of money into the Big Ten to the point where they were still getting their selection of the number 2 game of the year, the number 4 game of the year, the 6th game of the year. They were still showing a lot of, big Ohio State, Michigan State games, Nebraska, Wisconsin games, you name it. Notre Dame, Ohio State, that's considered a Big Ten game because it's being played at Ohio State. That was the number 2 selection behind Ohio State, Michigan this year, ESPN, ABC. ABC has been showing.
Will be.
What's that?
Still will be.
Yeah, for one more year. So ABC has been showing the Big Ten since 1966, 56 years ago. But negotiations have broken down. And this will be the first time that ESPN does not have a contract with all the major conferences. And you just, and now with the Big Ten aligning with NBC, CBS, and Fox, and ESPN's got an SEC network, they're already going full throttle SEC. You got to just wonder about how college football is going to be covered now when a ESPN does not have any affiliation with the Big Ten.
Well, yeah, exactly. And here's how it is that, okay, the negotiations have finished and the new television deal takes place in 2024. And is reported to be worth over $1 billion, right?
Yep.
Fox owns it. And Fox will do the exclusive Big Noon Saturday, which to all of us here in Husker land is 11 in the morning. Yay. And then CBS will get the 2:30, 3 o'clock spot. And then NBC will have that primetime spot. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's the first time that ESPN / ABC won't have anything to do with the Big Ten. And it's kind of crazy that, there won't be a Big Ten venue considered for College Game Day, hosting College Game Day.
Well, I don't know if we know that, do we?
That's the talk that's going on, is that they're not going to be a part of any of the College Game Day stuff on campus. I'm just saying on campus. So yeah, they're never going to go there. I mean, if there's a cross conference game going on, yeah, you're going to have a Big Ten game or team in there, but
yeah,
they're not ever going to go to a Big Ten venue to host College Game Day now. So that is unfortunate, but it's a money move. Obviously, the ESPN has their, they got their stock in the SEC. And so it's just, to me, just looking at it, it's punch counter punch right now between the Big Ten and the SEC to who can get better. And, and still the wild card in this is Notre Dame. Now, is Notre Dame still willing to take their $75 million a year from NBC and then get the chump change they get from the ACC network? Or do they join the club in the Big Ten because all of a sudden now your forever partner in television is now involved in the Big Ten? And if NBC is doing the primetime game, to me that sounds like Notre Dame is going to be on primetime every Saturday night if they're playing at home. But we're going to, like we've been saying for weeks and weeks, the landscape of college football has been changing so much, and television dollars run the deal. And, it's just, again, like I said, I think the Big Ten is just trying to flex their muscles again ahead of the SEC before the SEC does something like this. And to me, that ESPN would not try to match that. And don't get me wrong either. It's not just those three networks, but there's also streaming money involved in this whole deal with, some of the streaming, like I think Apple and I'm not sure if Netflix is in on it, but Hulu, I think, or somebody. But so there's more money coming in than just the television networks on this whole deal. But yeah, I mean, the more the merrier, I guess. I mean, more avenues to get college football on your devices if you're not in your own home or not in the stadium watching it. And more revenue coming into the players, with NIL, with all of it too.
All right, folks. Yeah, we're crazy about football. We love our country. These past 2 or 3 years, they have been difficult, but economic difficulties continue to persist for a lot of people. So let's remember those families in need. We got to support each other. The fine folks at Gene Arthur Associates are doing their part. And now when you partner with Gene Arthur Associates and get your insurance with them, you give back to those families in need. And most importantly, those children who need it most. 23 families are currently waiting for your support. So you go to www.jaainsurance.com, and that's easy to remember because you go to the description section of the live stream and you see it right there. And I'll drop that link right in the live chat as well. Go to www.jaainsurance.com. Get your instant quote on, name it, home, auto, motorcycle, boat, RV, renter's insurance. business owner policies, commercial package policies, workers' comp, life, health, dental, crime, cyber bonds. It's all covered. Contact Gene Arthur Associates. They do it all.
Pets?
Pets? We'll have to check on pets. We'll check on pets. Absolutely. So, Gene Arthur Associates, we appreciate them being on board here at the Voice of College Football. And speaking of being on board here at the Voice of College Football, Christian Hunt is going to be joining us as a post-game host after the Nebraska games this fall. So we want to welcome Christian here.
What's going on? Oh, doing Hey, how's it going there, Greg? GBR to you.
Nice to meet you, brother.
Nice to meet you too.
Christian, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Mark, and y'all?
We're good. We're good. This is what we do every Tuesday night, Christian.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to be aboard. I'm excited to talk a little football and kind of see how the season shakes out for everybody this year.
Well, absolutely. So we're going to ask you how you think this season is going to shake out. So you look at a Nebraska team that I don't have to tell you figured out ways to lose games last year, played with some of the best teams in the country for close to complete 4 quarters, and then just found a way to losing more one-score games, not just this past season, but under Scott Frost more so than any team in the country. More big impact transfer portal additions than anybody in the Big Ten. Christian, what are your thoughts about Nebraska football as we are less than 3 weeks away from seeing them on the field against Northwestern?
Well, I think they've certainly created a pressure cooker environment, in Lincoln right now. And it's you got to win this year, right? He's got to win. He's got to produce on the field. He's eliminated all the excuses. And I think that starts with the offensive line. Last year they were ranked 104th in the country as far as sack rate. And that was a big part of, I think, the Adrian Martinez years, right? As talented as he was, he, didn't have a whole heck of a lot of time to throw the ball in the Big Ten, right? And what Whipple wants to do, right? And Greg can probably attest to this too. What Whipple's going to do is he's going to come in and he's going to try to push the ball vertically. So you're going to have time in order to do that. The 3 best parts of the line last year are either in the NFL or suspended this year, but we don't need to talk about that last part, right? It's an interesting dynamic, right? So you're going to have to hope that offensive line grows up right in front of you and they do a good job at protecting Casey Thompson this year.
We got Christian Hunt on the line. Christian's going to help us host Nebraska postgame after every Huskers game this fall. So we welcome Christian to the channel here at the Voice of College Football, GBR. Are there any particular players on either side of the ball? And after I ask this questions, I'll let Greg jump in. Anybody that you're looking forward to seeing this fall?
I'd say on both sides of the ball this year, I'm going to say on offense, it's both tackles. The both tackles, like we were talking about earlier, they've got to step up and they got to do a better job at protecting. On the defensive side of the ball, it's Garrett Nelson. I think Garrett Nelson can have a, Aiden Hutchinson like year this year for Nebraska. I think they're going to be really good on defense this year. So
sorry, I'm being attacked by Zoe.
That's what I figured. I kind of had that feeling that, by the look on your face, Greg, I knew Zoe was in the picture, even though she wasn't in the picture.
It's half hour till dinner time, and she's getting antsy.
Well, you need to tell Zoe just that she needs to know the schedule here.
I know.
If we talk Nebraska football, then we eat.
Yeah, what was going on here? I'm lost. No, well, first off, though, you got to know who those tackles are on the offensive side before we get things going in Dublin here in 2 weeks. But no, I mean, all signs right now on the offensive line seem like there's been much improvement. And like if you're listening earlier, the running backs had such high praise out of the first scrimmage here on Saturday. And they're not getting high praise if the offensive line wasn't doing their thing. So Yeah, we're gonna see. Obviously Nuri New Ellen's not around, but it's time for Teddy Prohaska to step up. He's coming off of an injury, and Bryce Benhart time to step up, and Turner Corcoran's going to move on the inside, and it's time for him to live up to his ranking too, and. The offensive line obviously is actually the highest ranked high school, ranked ratings coming in any of the rooms on the football team right now. And with Donovan Raiola now taking the reins over, I think things are way, way better than what you're trying to make it out to be. And obviously, Garrett Nelson is and I'll tell you right now, and we mentioned this yesterday. I talked with Stephen Wynn, the defensive line transfer from Alabama that has spent 4 years at Alabama, and we had a side interview going on with him yesterday, and he was asked the question about leadership on the team, and this is Stephen Wynn. This is a guy that was a high 4-star ranked kid coming out of high school and spent 4 years at Alabama. So he's not a youngster coming in. I mean, he's in his early 20s. And he said that Garrett Nelson is the best leader that he has ever played with in his football career, which is very, very high praise. And I've known Garrett for many years now, going back to when he was a junior in high school, and he is always to me has always reminded me of Dick Butkus about the way he loves the game and plays with such a high motor. And I mean, he knew growing up in Scottsbluff, Nebraska, that the only thing he ever wanted to do was play football at Nebraska, and he was also a state champion wrestler as well, but obviously football is his thing, and I've always envied him by the way he goes 100% all out. And sometimes, I mean, coaches have always throughout his career have always had to tell him to slow down sometimes because he is that crazy in love with going out there and hitting people and just going 110% all day long. And so that to me yesterday really opened my eyes when I heard a guy like Stephen Wynn give that kind of praise to Garrett Nelson.
Christian, we're just about 2.5 weeks away from Northwestern, and it's going to be played on unfamiliar territory, of course, not in Evanston and not in Lincoln, but these are two teams that typically play down to the wire, last play of the game kind of games, except 7 touchdown difference last year. Nebraska, I don't think there's any question. They're just a more explosive team, better athletes. But Northwestern, of course, tremendous coaching, tremendous program that's been built there by Pat Fitzgerald. But this doesn't look to be one of his better teams. But how do you see this game shaking out? Have you given it any thought in regards to what you're expecting?
I think it's exactly like you said. I mean, the talent differential alone should at least be a 2 to 3 touchdown, victory. I would imagine for Nebraska, but Pat Fitzgerald, again, like you said, is one of the better coaches in the Big Ten. For me, it's a neutral site game. I think Northwestern's going to be a little bit looser, in that game. There's a little bit of like a championship, UFC fight, if you will, sort of feel to it. And sometimes, you can have a guy that's the heavyweight champion of the world. He's real uptight. He takes it a little too seriously. And it's the guy that's the underdog that comes in who just was a little more relaxed. You know what I mean? He just didn't make that mistake and he just sees it before the champion does. Right. And again, I think Nebraska should win this game, right? But it's on a neutral site game. There's a lot of expectations for it. To me, what it comes down to is the biggest thing from last year, and we've talked about it all off season, is the amount of games that we lost by a 1 possession. Well, how do you not do that? Well, you don't put yourself in a position where you can lose games by one possession. You got to put yourself in a position where you can be ahead by 2 or 3 possessions towards the end of the game, right? I mean, it's just that simple. And I think if they put themselves in that position, again, like we talked about, we're really not going to know what the weak part of last year's team was, the O-line, how they're going to do until we see it in Ireland, right? And if they can do a good job, which, again, like Greg said, I think all signs are pointing that they're going to be better this year. I don't see why they struggle in that game at all. But if they don't, and Casey Thompson is not able to throw the ball and they're just not able to run it downhill, then you're going to go into a pretty tight game in the fourth quarter, and that's got to be pretty scary.
Christian Hunt going to help us with post game here at the Voice of College Football Nebraska. So join Christian, and we got Zach Reeder online, and we may even be able to pull Greg in for a few games here and there to talk some Nebraska football after the Huskers wrap it up. So every Nebraska game, as soon as the clock hits double zeros, Christian will be here and others breaking down the Huskers.
I want to try to make this happen, Christian, from Dublin. How about that? How about that for a debut? Huh?
Hey, I thought when he said he was bringing me on, I told my wife, you better get your shillelagh ready. We're traveling,
Yeah, I mean.
The budget here, the Voice of College Football, is increasing. We haven't quite reached those levels, though. We're getting there. Christian, appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you, sir. It's my pleasure.
Good to meet you. Whoop, he's gone.
All right, good stuff. Folks, we have covered the Brandon Moore transfer coming in from UCF, Florida State, technically. We've covered the media rights deal. Is there anything else involving the TV deal?
Well, Moonbot says Moonbot knows that Zoe loves the Yankee, so I'll put that out there. But what were you asking? Sorry.
Well, people want to hear about this TV deal, but I just think that they've missed most of the conversation because we've covered the TV deal.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's different than other TV deals that we've heard about in the past where conferences are shifting and on the professional level, we see negotiations go on because this almost lines up with, again, what we've seen between the SEC and the Big Ten kind of going their separate directions. And yeah, punch, counter punch. And even though it's not like ESPN said, hey, we're done with the Big Ten, we don't want the Big Ten. And it wasn't like the Big Ten said, we're done with ESPN. They negotiated. It just came down to, as I read it, ESPN wasn't willing to shell out that kind of money, which was 7 years, $380 million, to not get upper echelon games. And with the games, most of them obviously going to Fox, but also CBS and NBC, ESPN wasn't going to shell out that kind of money to show Minnesota and Maryland every week
on ESPN too. And I mean, you're not even, and maybe, you're looking at the 11 a.m. Central ESPN2 game at best. Seriously. So, yeah. And then another ESPN2 game, obviously. But, yeah, that wasn't worth it to ESPN. And I don't blame them. I can't blame them. So, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, as you well know, these networks go into these negotiations and they've got a ballpark figure of this is what this is worth to us.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're going to sweeten the pot by saying, okay, you're going to get more Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Nebraska in your allotment, well, then we can stretch our budget, or vice versa. Oh, well, you're not going to see that many of those kind of games. Well, then our initial $380 million becomes less because you're not giving us that kind of inventory.
I think the forgotten thing in this whole thing too is the Big Ten network, because now I think they're the ones stuck running these, Rutgers, Illinois games now.
Well, they're showing those games anyway.
Oh yeah, of course they are, but
but you're right. They're going to be, once you serve out games to Fox and FS1 and, all the Fox stations, and then you get to CBS and NBC. Yeah, what's left for the Big Ten network? The only
Especially-
hope for the Big Ten network would be continued expansion of the conference.
Yeah. I mean, especially when you're adding UCLA and USC in there. You think they're going to put Maryland on instead of USC? No, not happening. I saw a question there about home field in Ireland. I could touch on.
Okay.
Yeah, they're going to. There's a good contingent of Nebraska fans that are traveling. They'll be on the same plane as we are, going over there. 2 weeks from yesterday, we leave. And I know for a fact that the Northwestern ticket sales are pretty pathetic at this point. So, yeah, I think it's pretty much a no-brainer that there will be a home field advantage for Nebraska when that game is played in the Via Stadium in Dublin on the 27th of August.
Well, JJ's making the comment here that ESPN controls the college football playoff, so ESPN backing out of the Big Ten could hurt when it comes to playoff time. But I think we need to go back to what Kevin Warren, the Big Ten commissioner, said at Big Ten Media Days, and that's that it sounded like basically we're not signing another college football playoff contract that's going to involve one network. When you've got a division like this, think back again. Think of the NFL. CBS doesn't show every Super Bowl because they've got one conference and Fox has the other conference. Well, now they mix it up because
there's four. They do it, split it by four now.
Four?
Well,
Fox,
at least
CBS,
NBC, Fox. Doesn't ESPN get it 1 year every now and then?
Super Bowl? No,
I guess not.
Never had a Super Bowl. Anyway.
Well, ABC used to, though, right?
Yes, they used to. Anyway, CBS with one conference, NBC with the other conference, pick your era, Fox, NBC, whatever. Two conferences, two networks, or three networks, whatever. And then they alternate. So, yes, before ESPN, Fox had all the BCS games and had all the national championship games running through 2009. So then ESPN just signed the contract. But the Big Ten is not going to be locked out of ESPN and then have ESPN controlling the playoff. No, it's expect there to be one playoff game on Fox and another playoff game on ESPN, and then the championship games on ESPN. But the next year, the championship games on Fox.
Right.
This is what we're going to see now.
Yep, absolutely. It's the only way everybody can stay in the game and still, at least have a piece of the pie in the broadcasting world.
Absolutely. Well,
yeah, I think people are going to like the Nebraska offense when they see it unleashed under Mark Whipple, with the changes being made and the cohesion of Coach Frost's system and Coach Whipple's system. I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised at what they see on the field. If not, I'll have to eat my shoe.
Michael says that the SEC ESPN contract is going to dwarf the Big Ten contract. Well, that remains to be seen.
A lot of money there in Disney. The streaming platforms, like I had mentioned earlier, have a lot to do with these negotiations as well.
In a certain way, depending on how long this ESPN, the Fox, CBS, NBC contract with the Big Ten is, if you think about it, they're going to sign a contract that's going to be tied to a certain number of broadcast windows that's pretty much going to tie up Fox, CBS, and NBC in almost every broadcast window that they have on a Saturday.
Yeah.
So when ESPN is negotiating with the SEC, where would the SEC go? That might lessen they're not going to have. Unless,
I don't know. You're confusing me now.
well, if NBC, CBS, and Fox lock up all the day of college football, like all that gets negotiated. We're paying you $1 billion plus. You're going to have all these time slots on our networks. Well, if there are no more time slots, then when it comes time for the SEC to negotiate with ESPN, I would think that the ESPN would be in a great spot because they say, if you're not going with us, where are you going to find a TV spot?
No, they would be. I mean,
maybe they'll get a bargain.
When you think about, I mean, pretty much all these networks are already broadcasting games on the weekends, cutting into network programming, obviously, and the people that you forget about are the local news stations who work for those networks, and sometimes the 10 o'clock news doesn't start until 11:30 or something like that. And they're the ones all suffering, waiting for that to get over with. But I'm just throwing that out there. Doesn't have anything to really do with it.
I remember those days.
I laugh at those people because I never got into the local. I never wanted to be in it. But I love them. I love them all. They're all my brothers and sisters.
It was horrible. So what the deal was when I worked at a CBS station was obviously March Madness was all CBS. So yeah, we'd have to hang out. If I wasn't on the road with a team, then if I was back at the studio, then yeah, we'd be sitting around until almost 1 o'clock in the morning waiting to do the local news. And we actually had a deal at our CBS station where we actually showed Monday Night Football because there was kind of some kind of screwy thing with ABC and the local affiliate. So they negotiated to pick up the Monday night games. And so we'd have to hang out until midnight or 12:15.
At least you had something fun to watch, though, while you're hanging out.
What's that?
At least you have something fun to watch while you're hanging out. Well, most of the time, at least.
Absolutely.
Unless you're a Bears fan and Bears are getting their butts kicked, not so much. But
all right.
And they're done that.
I think that's about all we've got, folks, for you. I don't see anything else on the live chat, so we will wrap it up right here. Nebraska Cornhuskers Live. Okay. 82 consecutive weeks. Make it on back for 83. Bring a friend or two or three. We'd love to have, let's say, 500 in the chat, not 140. So bring 3 or 4 friends with you next week, and we will be 1 week closer and just a few days away from Greg getting on a big bird to fly across the pond.
Can't wait. As long as they get my luggage there this time, I will be happy.
That helps.
Yeah, and if they let me into the country, that will also be a bonus. So
that is kind of necessary as well. Yeah.
You know what? The nice thing about I don't know how many people listening have been to Ireland, but I did not know this, that it's the only place in the world where U.S. Customs is over there. So we go through customs on the way home instead of going through customs when we land in Chicago. So that's a bonus.
I would think that's the way it should be set up everywhere, because if there's a problem, then you're still in that country versus flying all the way to a foreign country and then you're stuck.
Well, you do have to, you still have to test for COVID coming back here.
Sure.
And if you test positive, then you have to wait a certain amount of time and test again, and until they get a negative test, you're stuck there. So Anybody going there to see the game, make sure you get the travel insurance just in case.
For sure. All right, folks, make it on back here next Tuesday at 6 Central. Bring a friend or 2 or 10 or 50, and we'll talk Nebraska football. All right, Greg, enjoy practice this week. And,
hey, tomorrow's going to be great. Yeah, no, tomorrow we'll get to see a lot. They're in full pads. And, usually the way it goes, they give us, like last week when they gave us a video day, they were in shells and, you didn't get to see a lot. But I fully expect maybe, just maybe, don't hold me to it, but I've got a gut feeling maybe we get the Oklahoma drill tomorrow, huh? Wouldn't that be pretty sweet to see? And if that happens, On 3 Nebraska video, I'll have it all there for you.
And so while everybody's moving on here, go directly to On 3 Nebraska video right now. Please subscribe. We would appreciate it. We want to push them past 1,000. So I've explained this before regarding our channels. When you get to 1,000 subs, YouTube takes you seriously and starts really pushing out your content into traffic. So please subscribe there at On 3 Nebraska video. And again, you're going to do that for us, but you're doing it for yourself more than anything, because like Greg mentioned this week, you're going to have some great video from both sides of the ball from Nebraska football practice.
I serve
Greg.
I serve the fans, Mark.
Absolutely. We know it. See ya.